Thank you for your inestimable patience, everyone. Please give yourselves a hand for waiting around, and welcome to the July. Are we on? We'll get our equipment together one of these days. This is why they only pay us union scale. Anyways, yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to the hour that stretches June edition for 2018. My name's Edward Morris, and I've been writing across 4 or 5 different literary scenes in this town for quite a few years. And my goal with this read was to kind of bring them all together, the way that they used to do at the Cafe Lena reads, the way that they used to do at the Happenings, at the Jasmine Tree. Yeah, Lena! Every kind of performer was welcome there, as long as spoken word was incorporated somehow into the act. Like, they would get slam poets, rappers, stand-up comics, people with electronic shit strapped to them that would make poems come out of it, and everything in between. That's what I want to do here. What we have for a format of 6 performers, 1 half an hour, up to a half an hour each, I should say. They don't all take the full half an hour, but no genre restrictions, no experience restrictions, and no style restrictions. The experience thing is very telling. I've had an 84-year-old man who wrote an episode of The Twilight Zone here, the horror author William F. Nolan, and I've had a 19-year-old poet who we had to sneak into the Jade Lounge back when we were still doing it at the Jade so that we could get her up on stage, and she's now writing across the gamut in several genres over at PSU. Anna Suarez, she'll be here next month. But yeah, that's what we're about, and you know, just getting all kinds of different writers together that wouldn't otherwise be talking. One more equipment malfunction, sorry about that. Yeah, getting Bizarros talking to lit thick people, getting poets talking to slam poets, and healing that great rift, every other kind of thing too. Making new friends and new work. It is an honor to be to the literary scene in this town what Alan Freed was to rock and roll. We put it all under one roof here. And again, a note about the format, this read never charges a cover. We are entirely donation-based. If you see the coffee cans salted around the room, please feel free to visit them, and do tip your hard-working Ford staff. They've given us a semi-permanent place to play once a month. We appreciate them immensely. We headhunt on college campuses, at job sites, at metal shows. My production staff and myself are legion, and also from the audiences here. A lot of times, people will email me, audience members or a publicist emailing on behalf of an audience member. But my favorite kind of performer at this read are the kind who come up to me and start talking my ear off about something entirely unrelated. You know, it's a good conversation and everything, but I stop them after a while and I'm like, you have an act too, don't you? Like, well, I've had this novel I've been working on for 20 years and I never told anybody about it, and then they come in and read a section of it and blow our doors off. That is what this read is all about. We're going to bring our first performer right up to the stage because he is an hour virgin. We have not had him here before. Dr. Erin Sharpa is serving a drink stirred, not shaken, 2 parts pop culture, 1 part existential dread, a dash of saffron bitters poured over the rocks of satire and absurdity. He is founder of Orlando-based literary magazine, The Script. His poetry has been published in the Abaton, got a runner-up for the Richard Selzer Prize, and has been printed in the Best Emerging Poets anthology put out through Z Publishing Company. I don't write these bios, by the way. Last sentence reads, quote unquote, try not to take his poetry so seriously and laugh, God damn it, end quote. Way to set the tone. Well, please welcome Erin Sharpa to the hour of the special stage.
Thanks.
I got you.
How's it going? I went to the naked bike ride? Naked bike ride? Yeah, I went to the naked bike ride. And I'm very shaved, so that was fun. So I'm gonna do at least 2 pieces, maybe 3, maybe 4, depending on kind of how things turn out. And the first one I'm going to do something that I feel is polished. The second one something that I wrote in a hypomanic fit yesterday, or actually this morning. And then the third will would be like an added bonus and so forth. So why don't we get started? The first one's called Papa John's. Let's just set a tone. Does everyone know what Papa John's is?
Yeah, they suck.
Okay. Yeah, they suck. They suck. They totally suck. So let me divulge a little more. Okay. Let's respect the state. Jeez, nice guy. John Schnatter, hear my prayer, Papa John Schnatter. Great Papa John, in your supple palms you hold pizza. Harbinger of crust, you nourish us in a sliced lacuna of molten mozzarella, filled with exotic oils, pock-marked meats with edges curled, wilted in the oppressive heat of an industrial oven. Engraved in stone are two simple commandments. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John. A simple yet bountiful canon law that provides sustenance. Millions consume your blazing sacramental bread in the wake, and by slumber the roof of our collective mouths love off in a display of piety. You've created a church, a holiness, of which there's a foundation built on the stolen loins of swine that decorate the Corpus Gluticanicus New York Stylius, the bone-lined catacombs of ancestral papas that came before you chatter in unison under your $1.5 million home in approval of your lordship, Papa. The entrail-splattered artifice of your dual tennis courts is truly a sight to behold for those employees that so frequently question their Papa's distribution of company health coverage. Great ruling, Papa. Shine down on me. Fear not the qualms of such troglodytes who aim to sully your just cause. Spread pestilence over a land of milk and honey, hot steaming loads of marinara soaked the star-spangled acreage that surrounds your Kentucky-based mansion. Red tendrils penetrating into your underground 22-car garage. Your shriveled, wrinkled pepperoncinis with an acrid flavor of impotence upon the silver-tongued progressive that Jenny flexes at your football games. You were the blade that twisted into Little Caesar's back, the disease that curdled the blood of taken bacon unbelievers. Great, great Papa, split thunder on earth, fill bellies with evil and excrement, garnish butchered flesh and smoke and ash. Hail, Papa, Papa Satan, Pape, Alepi, Alepi, in the frozen seventh cantos of hell. Satan calls your name, his cool saliva refrigerating salami and cured hands. That's that. All right, so this second thing is called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I like have a weird infatuation with things that are pop culture or that are very commercial that a lot of people watch. We're not really sure why we do it or what's the underlying purpose, and there's almost like a psychosis a little bit. It's a little psychotic why we're so fixated on these things. So with this piece, I'm trying to kind of tune into that a little bit. So it's a little rough. Bear with me. Allow me to introduce a syndicated ABC television series created by visionary director Mark Gentile and originally aired in 1999 with Emmy Award-winning talk show host Regis Philbin. It examines the fun of knowledge of one contestant through a series of questions in escalating difficulty for a grand prize of $1 million. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I'm sure you've heard of this. A classic family-friendly game show to which I have spent a great deal of my life examining under the purpose of science. At the University of Toronto, I surrounded myself with other gameology researchers in pursuit of better understanding of the phenomenon known as this show. Who wants to be a millionaire? Let me push back on this a bit. Who doesn't want to be a millionaire? 13% of the American population considers wealth important. But is $1 million enough? Is $1 million enough to support a family? What is wealth? Realistically, contested winners don't go home with $1 million. The bump to the 35% income tax bracket will take a large bite. But the title, Who Wants to Be a $650,000-aire, just doesn't have the same ring to it. Even so, in all my studies of this game, I can't help but yearn for the limelight. Despite decades of my anthropologic research on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and my publications in the Journal of Gameology Research, the glory of the win cannot be compared to that of scientific study. I often daydream about the glory of winning such a game show. The jarring blue lights of the LCD screen at the contestant hot seat lighting the face of Mr. Philbin. A smug grin on my face as I phone a friend merely to inform them that I know the answer to the $1 million question. A faceless crowd erupting in uproar, Mr. Philbin's eyes widening, his sclera emanating piercing godlight into my body, my clothing sublimating in gas, leaving me nude under the green-billed rapture thundering through the sky. Ben Franklin's visage lined in hot blood drip dropping onto my face. I froth at the mouth over the answer pad in front of me, the saliva running down my chin into a mirror pond before me, in which I see the reflection of a proud hunter from Thespier, son of Laroue. I reach into the reflection in reverie, watching unfold. Even so, science is a struggle of delayed gratification. We have just received a grant through the NIH that allow additional participants in our most current gameology trial in Toronto, where we aim to study methods of contestant deception. This is after the precedent, of course, of Charles Ingram's win in 2001, when he managed to use a system of cops between himself and his wife to successfully win $1 million. Cops. Can you imagine the audacity of some people who are given a gift and decline is insufferable? I remember when I heard the news of the 2001 Who Wants to Be a Millionaire charlatan. I came home immediately from the lab. I remember splashing cold water into my face. Nothing got the acidic vitriol out from under my skin, the degenerate. It could have been me. It could have been me who was the millionaire, my hands trembling with such force, the crow's feet of my eyes tensing in agony, grasping my chest, ripping into the shirt through blurred eyes. The reflection I saw in the mirror wasn't me, snot saturating my mustache and the veins of my neck, engorging in molten red blood cells, shearing through the tension of the carotids, bounding into a flushed face, the crow's feet of my eyes, they spread raven's wings, scratching my cheeks, leaving wrinkles through my forehead, cold sweat dripping on my scalp, which began to sprout. Thin brown hair, my eyes becoming brown through blurred vision. The reflection I saw in the mirror wasn't me, it was Regis. In a moment of narcissistic exaltation, I became fire incarnate, totally undone, money smoldering around me in a thick black cloud. The malady of humanity lifted from me like a shade, finally removed, smoke filling my peripheral vision. The next thing I remember was my wife standing over me. Did you miss a dose? Did you miss another fucking dose, Eric? She kept going on about how she couldn't do this anymore, how I was sick, how I needed help. Even so, dedicating a life to science is no small task. I can say that there are many fruits to my labor. There are insights in research that could help millions, many others. I'm looking forward really to our latest research study, and I appreciate your attention in my pursuits in the game of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
You're fading in and out. Bring the mic closer to your mouth.
I got audacious with this whole holding it in my hand thing. Let's see.
Make friends with it.
Yeah.
It likes you.
Okay, so I'm going to do a few more, how do I say, less satire and kind of more serious poetry, stuff that's a little more polished. So this is a short piece. This is called a psych ward. We don't allow belts or necklaces. The unit is bare. The door frames trigger alarms, pens peek out of plastic sheets by only 1/8 of an inch. But don't underestimate the creativity, the inventiveness of human suffering. When a man has used a pair of Levi's to hang himself, so those aren't allowed anymore either. Are you guys liking what you're hearing? Because I have another.
Yeah, that's a good poem.
Should I do another?
Yeah, we like it. We like it.
Want to wave?
Oh yeah, wave. I love the wave idea. Ooh, okay. Oh wow. That's a lot. There's a lot of participation. I love it. You know what's funny is I was hoping to play the. You ever hear the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh yeah. The end music. Yeah.
It's truly akin to a Baroque era piece. I'm gonna pull up. I wasn't prepared for this, but I'm gonna pull it up on my phone and I'll read it this way. Okay. Wait a second here.
You're good. You're real good.
Okay. So this will be the last one I present. This one's definitely a serious, very serious piece. It's talking about kind of my first experience with death, and it was in the anatomy lab, which was my first patient, and I really like this poem, and I hope you like it too. It's called Ghost. I held in my breath while we grabbed the ends of the white damp cloth and peeled it back. In part from the sharp smell of preservative, and in part because I was afraid of what was underneath. The towel felt heavy the first time we lifted it, weighed down, soaked completely. Its chin was jutting upwards towards the ceiling. Black buds of a sloppy row of stitches closed the deep fissure running along the clavicle towards the midline. This is where the blood was drained. I felt nothing. At the table, just a floating feeling between the living and the dead. An ethereal space filled the divide between my warm body and this cold, small one, like purgatory, completely still, motionless, dissociated from reality, just cutting away, naming structures. I looked at the gash where its blood was left. I felt nothing. The dissection was done. We coated it with formaldehyde in a spray bottle, like gardeners on a plot. We covered it with a white towel, and we hosed that down too. My foot was poised on the step level to hoist down the dissection table, but I was disturbed. The white towel. What was underneath? Her body, outlined human shape along the matted towel. She was someone that was loved. Where was the gash? She was someone's daughter. I couldn't dissociate dead from alive. The idea of what was underneath, the idea of life, I touched a ghost. The thin white veneer that wrapped the outside of her body, it was a canvas in which you paint an image of an offshore breezy fishing town. She had lived there for some time, I'd like to think, in that little idyllic village off the coast, with her husband, a hard-working man, a man with a stout jaw, a stern and powerful jaw. He was Irish by blood, made a living off the boats. Often he was away from home, but he always brought her back a handful of daffodils on his way home from the marina.
Marina. Wow, Erin. Papa John's still on the line. There wasn't much pollution there. If any, it was from the tugboats pushing along unwelcome fishing scenery. We could tell all this by looking inside her lungs. Minuscule specks of carbon deposits. It's amazing what clues that were there, what little privacy she had in her death. The years weighed on like lead. The grief of the love that passed on and along the waves more days than not. No longer was the love light on her like the tiara of trillium I always imagined she wore on her wedding day. And so her back bent. It broke under the load of grief, specifically at the anterior T12 and L1 level that was seen on CT. When her neighbors asked when Sammy Boy would be back and joked of an affair with the mermaid, her back started aching again. Tears welled in her eyes for him, and the lump in her throat made it so hard to speak. That one we excised, the lump. It was a thyroglossal duct cyst, at least by histological analysis. Through the many years, she was still a good woman to him, though he died one day, the way that things usually die, naturally. The literature shows that women age longer than men, 5 years longer. She lived. I had to slip underneath her right arm to cut open her neck. I swore in that moment I heard her speak to me after we had cleared the cobwebs in her throat.
One more time, Erin Sharpa, who is no longer in our prison. Erin is one of many people who have stepped up and volunteered at least their interest in these slowly emerging production meetings that we are having associated with this show. We're about to make The Hour That Stretches into a podcast. We already have a website, the.hourthatstretches.com, and we're trying a few other things with street promotion and such to get this thing even bigger. It just seems like it's time, 5 years is time to get bigger, but again, check out the website, the.hourthatstretches.com, and all will be made clear. I want to bring our next two performers right up. Widener's bizarro novel, Rock and Roll Head Case, was published by Eraserhead Press right here in town in 2015, and his collection of weird fiction, Under the Shanghai Tunnels and Other Weird Tales, was published by Strange House Books in 2017. He's also been published by Omnium Gatherer Media, Dynatox Ministries, Erin has propped up quite a few performers at this show and made their work shine and sparkle. People who maybe wouldn't have an opportunity to read with music backing them otherwise. If you are one of the people I talked about who have an act or one of the future performers and your work is truly superlative and weird, which is a big duh if you're anywhere near this show, ask Erin about accompaniment, get to know her music, watch her play, you're welcome. Erin, Laroue, and Lee Widener, folks, please welcome them back to our stage.
That's true.
It's going to be worth it, you guys. We're recording this for YouTube. That's why we got to get it perfect. Thank you for your patience. We love you. Say something, like say 2 or 3 words. Cool.
You want that tall, stand taller?
Yeah.
So, teeny tiny stories from the marinated jungle. Number 1, the stone-faced snake. A cranky little snake was crawling along the jungle floor when it spotted an unusual object on the ground. Being a snake, it stopped to examine the object because, as we all know, snakes are incurably curious. Also being cranky, the snake was a little upset that the object was there in its path. So it began to slither around and around the object in circles, examining it. It appeared to be a small purple stone of irregular shape, with some sort of ridges or marks on the surface, running willy-nilly across it. As the small cranky snake slithered around and around the stone, peering at it suspiciously, the snake began to speak. It spoke words it did not know nor understand. They were not words the snake had ever heard before. In fact, they were words that had never been uttered before in the universe or anywhere. Nor would they ever be uttered again. As the snake uttered these words, wiggling around and around the stone began to change. It was growing a face. A nose appeared and 2 sockets for eyes, and a gaping irregular gash for a mouth. And on the sides, 2 flaps for ears. The face was ugly, and it had a horrible look. Its mouth snapped open and shut in a disgusting way, but it could make no noise. It looked like it was trying to scream. This frightened the snake so much it crawled down under the earth so he could not see the ugly stone. The snake found some tunnels underground and it crawled along them as fast as it could go, for it was afraid the horrible stone would follow it. So it was forced to take the one path that was straight from end to end. The snake was becoming quite stiff. He had always been afraid of going straight, and now that's all he could do. The poor little thing was really becoming quite upset, worried about the horrible stone above and the stiffness in its bones, and he began to cry. He floated back to the surface on his tears, and the horrible stone saw him. The little snake screamed. The stone flew into the air and stuck itself to the snake's face like a mask. It scared the snake so much it went stark, raving, mad. It thrashed about and threw itself on the ground, attempting to break the mask. The poor little snake screamed in fear and anger, and the mask amplified his screams. He could be heard all across the marinated jungle. Animals from all around the jungle heard the screams and went to see what was going on. They saw a green snake with a screaming stone face, twisting and rolling around on the ground, and they were sore afraid. A voice came from the mask, saying things that had never been said before. Entre and also His utterances terrified the jungle animals, but then the stone-faced snake spoke in words they could understand. I, the stone-faced snake, am God of the jungle. All shall obey me. If you do not, I will bite you about the shoulders, and I will eat your toenails, causing you much pain. I will rip all the armadillo trees out by their roots, causing the marinated jungle to lose much space. I will suck the air into my powerful lungs, causing the jungle to implode. My law is this. From this day forward, no jungle animal shall eat donuts filled with paste of fried moose nuts. Nor shall any denizen of the marinated jungle ever again drink Wonton Mountain Sunrise flavored kombucha. It is forbidden. Remember this always. With that, the stone-faced snake grew 10,000 times its original size. Its image filled the sky and paralyzed the animals with fear. Remember my law, or I shall return and mete out my punishment. It bellowed. And then the stone-faced snake faded into the sky, leaving the animals shaking with fear. That day, the animals of the marinated jungle vowed never to defy the stone-faced snake's edict, and they never have. The stone-faced snake was never seen again. But who knows? He might come again someday and lay down a new law, even more terrible than the first. So the animals of the marinated jungle mind their ways, ever fearful of what might be. Stories from the marinated jungle, number 2, the squirrel who knew nothing. Deep in the heart of the marinated jungle lived the squirrel who knew nothing. She truly knew nothing. She couldn't remember where she buried her nuts. She couldn't remember the names of anyone she met. If anyone asked her how to get to the melancholy sea on the edge of the marinated jungle, she would answer, I don't know. If they asked where the lion who thinks he was king was, she'd say, I don't know. If they asked her where the path to the outside world was, she'd say, I don't know. She couldn't remember where her own house was. She didn't even know her own name. But because she knew nothing, she was an excellent listener, and this made her a very popular and well-liked member of the marinated jungle. All who knew her found her a joy to be with, because everyone loves someone who will just shut up and listen to them. But one day, The wings of knowledge, a purple and orange bird with 4 wings and 2 beaks, happened to be passing by and overheard the little squirrel, unable to answer even the most simple questions like, what is 1 plus 1? And what color is the sky? And just how fucking stupid is Donald Trump anyway? And thought to herself, boy, the squirrel really has no clue. Right then and there, the wings of knowledge, a purple and orange bird with 4 wings and 2 beaks, vowed to teach the little squirrel who knew nothing a thing or two. The bird flew down to the floor of the marinated jungle and landed right smack and dab in front of the squirrel. Wow, who are you? The surprised squirrel stammered. I am the wings of knowledge, a purple and orange bird with 4 wings and 2 beaks. I know everything, and I'm going to teach it to you. Wow, everything? The squirrel replied. Yes, everything. The wings of knowledge, a purple and orange bird with 4 wings and 2 beaks, said. As she flipped open the squirrel's head, switched on the recording button, and began. She taught the little squirrel the names of all the creatures that walked, hopped, crawled, or slithered through the marinated jungle and in the outside world. She taught her the names of all the things that swam or sparkled through the melancholy sea and all the great oceans. She taught her the names of all the plants that grew from the lowest low place to the highest high place. She taught her the names of every country that ever existed, and the names of every city, town, village, and settlement that had ever existed. And then she taught her the names of all the places that never existed. She taught the little squirrel every line of every book ever written. She taught her every spiritual precept ever conceived by anyone, including the 9,000 parables of the mystery worms. She taught her every method of divination ever used by any mystic since the beginning of time, including popcorn snorting, squid shaking, and mouse balls. She taught her to sing every song ever sung, even Nickelback.
The part where you wanted me to learn a Nickelback song, and sorry, but it's a bit in this story.
She told her every secret that had ever been whispered into someone's ear. The little squirrel learned the entire recorded output of the teleharmonium. She learned the entire catalog of Hervé Bellecha's superpowers. She learned how to turn lead into fool's gold. She learned how to rid the world of ignorance and fear. She learned what the DC and DC-10 polio stood for. She learned who was being paid off and by whom to suppress the widespread use of Tesla's free energy magnifier. She learned the precise formula Prometheus had used to make his magic wings. She learned the truth behind the Berenstain Bears conspiracy, which was more shocking than anyone could have imagined, involving peanut butter, Nazis, and 30 of Jupiter's 69 moons. She learned that Houdini didn't need to communicate from the spirit world, but that he only wanted to discuss the highway system surrounding Dallas, Texas. The wings of knowledge, a purple and orange bird with 4 wings and 2 beaks, revealed a suburb of Hoboken, New Jersey, where Elvis was living and counterfeiting $1 bills. She revealed that the Voynich manuscript was in fact a hoax, but that it had been dictated by an extraterrestrial computer from the planet orbiting Aldebaran 6. The little squirrel learned what was at the top of Jacob's ladder. She learned the recipe for Schrodinger's cat food. She learned how to sharpen Occam's razor. She learned every loophole in Murphy's Law. She learned that John and Ezra Jack were a pair of keys. She learned that Martins and Kevorkian were a paradise. She learned that snake eyes were a paradise. And she learned that 2 10-cent pieces were a paradigm. All these things the little squirrel learned from the wings of knowledge, a purple and orange bird with 4 wings and 2 beaks, and more, before the bird switched off the recorder in the squirrel's brain and closed up her head, and then flew away into the deepening gloom in the night sky of the marinated jungle. And from that day forward, the little squirrel was known as the squirrel who knew everything, much to the annoyance and irritation of the other creatures of the marinated jungle, because no longer would the little squirrel sit and listen politely while someone else talked, but would instead extol endlessly on any and every subject imaginable for hours and hours. The once popular squirrel became a social outcast and suffered from crippling loneliness. She could often be seen lurking under bushes and ferns, shaking uncontrollably and gazing longingly at passers-by, wishing anyone would stop and listen to her. So beware, my friends, of a visit from the wings of knowledge, a purple and orange bird with 2 beaks and 4 wings, because you may learn more than is good for you. Now I'm going to turn the stage over to Erin.
Yeah, this is the musical part of the act, you guys. It's a 2-parter. Oh, beautiful.
Thanks everybody for coming. This is always really fun. I've done this before with Lee, and it's an interesting way to collaborate as a musician with a writer. It's kind of, I've always really loved soundtracks, so being able to use someone's imagery that they use words to create and then put music to that. So another thing that kind of came out of all of this is once a year there's this group in town that puts on a birthday party for Edgar Allan Poe. And after I started performing at the hour, some people from that group were like, hey, we do this thing. Like Edgar Allan Poe, you want to do something with Edgar Allan Poe? And we did. So collaborate with him. I said, it's kind of awesome because it's copyright free because it means so much. I said, oh, I don't know. I said, never thought about it. And so I started really getting into his poems because, poems are kind of like lyrics. And I've really gotten into writing songs on Edgar Allan Poe poems, so I'm going to do that always today. Cool. This first one is, I picked this one because it's called The Conqueror Worm, so it kind of had like an animal nature thing to it, and I thought that would be weird, and a worm should be marinated jungle baby. So, breeze fitfully the music of the spheres. Out of the condo invisible world, and motley throng of be sure it shall not be for us. It's empty chase for everyone by a crowd that sees it not. The circle that every turn within the same spot. Life
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to direct from the floor. John Costello, this is the real Intermission. Go ahead. Just going to take a little minute. You can take it.
I just need to know what. The keyboard,
yeah, this is just
He's got his hand. He brought his hand.
Oh, he's fine. Okay, we're just going to take a little 5-minute break and get stuff reshuffled around. Please go smoke cigarettes, stretch your legs, get some food, get the beer, and tip your hardworking Ford staff. As I said, I'm very appreciative that we get this place to play one on one. And you took the words out of my mouth. Give yourself a hand. You're already doing it. Cheers. We'll see you in a minute. Right on. Okay, there's going to be a few other people coming in back and forth here real quick, so we're just going to extend the intermission for a minute while our performer gets ready. Thanks again for coming out, you guys. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, thanks a lot for your patience, guys. We're going to let the rest of them filter back in. Our next performer is no stranger to the hour that stretches at all. He's been with us for a good couple of years. Branham took the plunge into fiction writing in 2012 after a long career in engineering, science, and network support magic. Brad enjoys writing dark comedies, slice of life adventures with unusual settings, maybe rock and roll, fantasy, or steampunk or other unusual locales, but it's the people, the camaraderie, and their antics that make the tale sink or swim. Brad's rocket science series is set in the real world, but the characters and situations evoke fantasy and magic with complex characters and bizarre realities that reflect the modern rock music scene. The band even has its own Facebook page where the characters post and comment on the world as well as answering fan questions. Brad is also known to plink on bass guitar, play a ridiculous number of games, both computer and tabletop, and likes to travel. He's been a huge hand to the hour that stretches at various points in the production. He's also very fond of a wide variety of artists, models, craft folk, and other creative human beings he has come to know in the process of creating his novels. Now, my only question remains, where do you go? Brad Branham! Oh, he's coming. Anybody know any good jokes? Hey, how many hipsters does it take to change a light bulb?
How many?
Light bulbs. We use matches now. Why do hipsters wear beards?
Why?
To differentiate genders when they're mating. Okay, here he is. Please welcome him back to the hour that stretches stage. Brad Branham. Good. You're good for time. You got the full half an hour, brother.
Let's see. Oh, terrible going after Erin and leaving. Anyway, I tell stories. Hello.
Yeah, better. Much better. Keep talking.
I write stories about a rock band based in Portland, Oregon. That's my current gig. So, and very unusual people, and it's kind of a dark comedy. So I'm going to read two parts, a short story and another short story. And start with, okay, protagonist in this first part. She's a little Russian goth named Sita Sarikov, who lost her parents at a young age, lost her caretaker, got thrown into boarding school systems. The orphanage gave her psychotic problems. She ended up in schools for psychiatric needs. And she's a very violent little person. She kept spiraling deeper into trouble with no rescue in sight, and then she met Glycerin. So, do not touch me. It would be annoying to waste time explaining a resulting mess. Zutka blah. Sika stood defiantly, her path in the hallway blocked by three older boys. She's about 12 years old at this point. A head taller than the sprite. It was young Russian ward's third day at this particular boarding school for troubled students. The latest in a long line of schools. It never changed. Each time her life immediately dived into hell. Bullies couldn't stop themselves. Drawn like moths at the tiny doll with her dual hair tails worn against code. The 12-year-old had already been in 3 fights at this institution, 2 the first day. Like elsewhere, they immediately blamed her. She was new, foreign, and on record as prone to violence. Just easier to blame her. The 3 thugs taunted her, ignoring her demand to stand aside. Freddie, the wee doll isn't up any crumpet. Maybe she needs a spanking. Her very didn't get it wrong. Freddie, I think we got a blooming, tasty, coming doll to play house with. Sika's eyes narrowed, glittering with malice. Her stance shifted, 1 foot slipped further back. Move now. Out of my way, bucktard tugs. I will not ask again. The ringleader sneered in anger. You are one mouthy little bitch. But I quite difficult with all the thought. What's shaggable? The proper yank of his strings and you'll address me properly. He towered over the elfin girl, grabbed for one of Sika's twin tails. Never got to pull it. In a blurred explosion, her hooks became spinning projectiles, striking each of the 2 minions in the face. Both fell back with plaintive cries. Her hand flashed up, gripped Freddie's outstretched arm, using it to hoist herself. She jerked herself up into the air and fired one of her legs into an explosive kick that struck the ringleader directly on his nose. They stunned Freddie fell backwards, leaving a blood trail in the air. Sika landed daily on her feet, watching his collapse with contempt. That's the intro for Sika. Give her an idea of her past. Our friend Glycerin that she meets later. It's like a flash forward to adult years. Darkness. Rats scurry through mine shadows, the sounds of screams, silent summer hours, wet, dark, smells, rot, snakes. So many snakes. We cry, we plead for it to end. We can jump down to our family, broken beneath the ocean, water, weep. She felt a gentle hand on her neck, safe arms around her, whispers that she was safe. Dear Glycerin, the night terrors never quite go away. We have gathered friends over the years. First, our lovely doll, back in school, and the man, loved ones who helped, and even when we can't feel them, even when the gloom swamps us. We love our friend, and the minute they put up with us, us. We are glick at the pain. We play guitar. It's our happy space. At first just for our doll, and now for so many we shake at the thought. But we love our friends, they protect us, and we play. Are you okay, Glitter? You had a bad dream. Not real. Not real now. He rocks us, one of the few men we feel safe near. Our precious doll Sika found it. He's Blar from the band we worshipped when we were younger. It's complicated now, the 3 of us. But each day we choose not to decide, and it works so far. Now we'll go to the main story. This is when they're about 16 years old, still in boarding school. Glycerin glared at her textbook, desperately trying to stay focused on the content. The lanky 16-year-old twitched dramatically as she sat curled up on the cushions in the sill of the dormitory room. She grit her teeth as she skimmed the paragraphs of her political science reading. Glycerin was not cold, she itched. So much itching. The maddening sensations looped from her collarbone down between her breasts and trailed off her navel. We think it is quite possible this was not a gloomy, brilliant notion. Yes, my dear, I know you're proud of it. It was done for you, after all. It itches so much. Hush, hush, hide in the shadows. I could hear the steps of Sika approaching in the hallway. The bang of the door being pushed up, and I announced the arrival of our friend Sika. We had been friends for 4 years now. The short teen trotted into the corner between the chair, closed the door, and slung her gym bag on the desk. Ha! Listen! Vivid memory. Aha, damn, I'm feeling fantastic today. The tiny, crazy bitch defeated the school fencing instructor. Finally stopped hiding and shocked the shit out of her. Whispering continued twitching. That's lovely and all, but you mustn't make the man mad. Perhaps let him think he helped you. Oh my God, I can't stand it anymore. She dropped her textbook, furiously rubbing her chest and stomach, growling and mouthing inarticulately as Sika stood watching, astonished at the tall woman's spasms. Oh my God, Becca, are you having a seizure? This is new. Is there something? What the fuck? Let me help you. No, love, that's not it. Tears flowed down Blake's cheek as she anxiously rubbed under her shirt. Alex, when my dog keeps a secret and helps us, we don't know what to do. She slowly unbuttoned her blouse, exposing her skin from neck to navel. The little goth's mouth dropped open. Her flame-fitted pupils seemed lit from the wind as she absorbed the glycerin around. Oh, this is magnificent. Sika clapped her own mouth shut with both hands and whispered, this glorious fucking awesome snake tattoo. So sexy and pretty. Oh my God. Sika arched her eyebrows and smoked. The bitch is like fucking ants, am I right? Yes? The shy teen tearfully nodded. We got it last night when we were at the tournament. We stewed on the necklace since I spotted the parlor while shopping. It's run by a nice woman. She assumed I was old enough, like it does at the pub when we sneak sort of darts. I am thinking I'm more amazed at your adventure getting there back than the event of actually getting a tattoo. Brave Wicca, it's a heroic adventure and your own huge accomplishment for you. Sika dug around her gym bag. Here, I will medicate you. This is gel for the skin burns and such. Should work nice with touching. Be still and I will do it for you. Loosen your ball and let else. Glycerin blushed as she pushed her shirt up on the stamped her bra and sat quietly with small hands applied the gel covering the tattoo and silk funeral. Oh my goodness, must not focus on lovely. No, don't focus. Empty brain who doesn't want to scare our precious friend with words. Feels much better, pretty doll. Thank you. Sika nodded and pushed the gel away. What brought this on, Mouse? You have never mentioned wanting a tattoo. It's so large. Fuck, it would go from my knees past my throat. How to answer? You cannot tell the truth. You always seem mad to most people. My friend tries her hardest to tolerate my mood swings and rudeness. Oh, that's a good idea, that way. Lovely help. A badge to mark my days after the tsunami, surviving the rooftop with those snakes and things. Sika nodded assertively. It's good. Important reason. Pretty colors. The itching is fading with the gel, yes? Stand still, it's angry. Did they not tell you what to do for taking care of skin? We panicked. We were paying when the man came in, and I threw my money and ran. Understood. How the fuck do you plan on avoiding caught with new art? It's not written as forbidden, but can imagine total spasm pulmonaries from shitheads. Our new doctor is nice to me. She helps me feel safe, even when she tries a new drug products to help us. We think she'll keep my secret. Maybe even tells us we were aware. Glycerin watched Sika's mental gears spinning at full throttle. As a melancholy teenager rebuttoned her shirt up, her precious little friend's face lit up. I won't know. Yes, not be leaving me behind in such thing. It should fit my style like hers does you. Must do on what kind of art it should be. Such things must be chosen carefully. That would be splendid. Sika's gaze went to Glycerin's arms. Both limbs were crisscrossed with a network of scars. Normally, the young woman wore long sleeves for classes. Sika had not discovered her friend's damaged arms until they were bunking together after transferring to the wretched school the two had met. In addition, Glycerin had added more scars since arriving. Twice since Sika had become a friend, the last he had attempted suicide during psychotic episodes. This was, after all, school for students with psychiatric needs. You could tattoo your arms, Blake. Decorate. Don't shut down the stupid hurtful questions. Then we'll have to wait till they're done with special coding schools. Maybe university? I not thought of that. She made a noise that she could construct her video. That's a brilliant notion. But yes, we'll have to wait. Shall we play guitar now, Mouse? Feeling energetic after beginning. Nika was already hauling her bass guitar case out from under the bed and flipping the latches. Listener silently nodded and picked up her Fender guitar before it hung against the wall. She loved making music to her friend. She pushed the game on. Flash forward. Got it! Tika leaped up from her desk, gathering her work. The two young women were studying an upcoming math exam. Listener clapped and cheered for her most important doll. Good show, Listener replied. You figured the derivative out? No. I am totally screwed up my small butt on that one. No, look at my tattoo, a spider, a black widow, venomous, right over my heart, poisoning my heart with its fangs. What's her thoughts there? That doll doesn't want something happier? Her heart is precious, not black. Mouse is sweet liar. She knows the darkness in me. No, I think this is a perfect idea. I replied, getting it. Tricky part is getting past the gate without some mouthy tattletale seeing me. You are so good at sneaking, I have to plot the chance. You should work on your derivative. Test. Derivative test. You've been doing so well this semester. That's all you're doing, Becca. You'll be 20 without your tutoring. Okay, math is my nemesis now. Oh, transformation right here. Fuck, I can't believe I missed it. I am a moron. No, my doll is not a moron. She just thinks differently, likes you. I do. Keep that there. They fluttered in shadow. Scuttled along the edge of the campus edges. The thickening fog sucked up the last remnants of daylight as night settled in. The dark form hopped the short fence, slipped off into the village, to block away the streetlight transferred the shadow into the seabed. She moved into the confident pace now, really struck in the water. She celebrated her getaway. The mouse was the people of trust. They were working on the music compositions. It's good. She's spending a lot of time with guitar these days, not just in a room with little classmates. Seems to help her glean to play, much more happy than the keyboards. I should take actual music classes and just pick up my bass guitar like Louie. She is so goddamn good though. Still in the fall of time and she's forgotten. Maybe you could form a band or something for graduating. She laughed out loud at that fantasy thought. Turning the corner, she spotted the parlor where Bertha had acquired her python tattoo from. She pranced to the front door and entered the shop. Hello, I'm looking for artists. Yes, I would like tattoo. The woman who ran the shop emerged in the back room and burst out laughing. What a charming little sprite. I'd love to help you, little girl, but you're far too young for tattooing. What? I am 7 fucking ages Blicka. You gave her Wondrous tattoo. What the fuck? The woman's face turned to fear. How old is that young woman? Blicka, you said? My friend is 16, same age as me. I'm saying, I'd like tattoo. The woman turned pale. Oh my bloody knickers, I was sure she was 18. I didn't even ask. No, Robin, you have to be 18 in Wales to get a tattoo. Well, please tell her not to tell anyone who gave it to her. I'd lose my license. Seek is good. She was not going to give up. I must have tattoo. She was my most important friend. Oh, fuck, she was my only friend. I pay you cash, quietly, not say a word. That's so sweet, but I'm terrified now. Even if I took your money, I'd likely mess it up. I'm so upset. The inking artist sat down, obviously distraught. Sika was now spiraling to the point of tears herself. We must have fun with my friends. Must be a friend. The aggravation of the small god says, faded, taking my dear friend. Okay, creative new plan. I will be blunt. Is there artists less worried about such things who would take cash? It's totally fucking hard to sneak off campus and leave them, please? You're bloody serious about this, aren't you? I do know one man. He's a bit creepy. I wouldn't send a little elf and sweet like you do. Sika grew up to her full height, all 4 foot 10 inches up, taking the defiant stance. I am probably far more dangerous to him than he is to me. The woman smirked at the short, hairy creature, and then her eyes went up high. Wait a minute, I think that hurt. One of the older boys was here the other day for his first tattoo. He chatted about a fight he saw last year, a tiny pixie girl beating the crap out of 3 birds with just her hands and feet, cursed the entire time. You? Secret flash of grin. Yes, it was me. Fucking pigs bothered my friend, and then made fun of me. It's a bad day for that. See, sketchy pigs are nothing. It will be fine if you give me directions. It is my choice after that, okay? In my defenseless, frills and lace I steal. I get it, Miss Lice is sweet trickle. I am trusting my gut and looking her eye. She drew her mouth on the sketch pad and pulled the sheet to hand the small one. Keep it that way. The owls and bars are nasty, no matter how dated she was. There are too many buggers. Please don't be too stubborn about it. I feel blooming awful if I were about you in paper. But I won't be an obstacle. You're a stubborn doll of purpose. That's what Secret calls me. I am her little doll. She is my best friend. I will not be denied. Thank you. Secret tipped her for the information and left, following her out. A few short blocks, she switched her thinking of tactical download. This really was a sketchy public man. Not evil so much as wild and bold boasters. Harassment or water cycle after someone too drunk to take note of the message. Zika had specifically dressed in street fashion collectively and put her hair in a ponytail, whether I preferred twin tails. But she knew her young looks and size would probably draw attention. It would be more surprising if she did not encounter a problem at some point. She approached her destination just after nightfall and spots squelched the remaining light. Zika let out a grateful sigh and seeing the open sign in the window and lights. There was a customer inside, so she loitered out of sight until the man finished his business and left. She slipped into the doorway. No one at the desk but she could hear movement in the rear of the establishment. Hello? Hello? I am hoping the shop is still open. Would like a small piece of art commissioned? A tall, thin man appeared from behind the curtain and rose to a halt. It's not ugly, but heavily tattooed and smelled of tobacco. What's this? Like, really? You're as French as candy bar, but you aren't bloody legal for a tattoo. What are you doing in these parts after dark? Zika's heart fell. Was told you were not too particular about customers if the money was good. My friend, she got a tattoo and I'm determined to get my own in support. I'm older than I look. I'm 16. I have cash. Strictly non-deal. Was hoping? She fell silent and unnoticed. Before I tell you no, spank you and send you home, what tattoo do you want, little on top? And how much is it worth to you? I'm wanting Black Widow spider, about this big. I want it over my heart. She unbuttoned her shirt halfway and tugged it open just enough for her to reveal a handkerchief and the curve of her breast. Here, over my heart, here. It's worth 70 pounds to you of good art. I researched prices. The man gazed at the ivory skin she pointed at and did not move for a solid 10 seconds. Oh, I'm definitely going to hell for this little morsel of candy. Let's choose you some art. Come back here and look at my spider webs. He walked past her to put the store sign closed. He locked the door, just making sure we aren't fully bothered. I am fond of my business partners. Zika's antennae were fully extended. The man did not radiate evil particularly, just kind of a creepy. Nonetheless, she restored her glance. Following you then, what should I call you? My name is, she waved his hand. Don't give me your name. My name is Eddie. Eddie is fine. Okay, Eddie, then you already named me. You shall be calling me Candy. Brilliant choice, Candy. It is going to be a fine little piece of art, and a fine little piece of art. He was shoveling praise and admiration of her lips. Zika had to work hard to keep the triumph on leaving. She was not used to having anyone publicity praise her appearance. The man seemed to adore her, complimenting how she moved, her delicate bone structure, porcelain skin, subtle comments about her curves. It was almost poetic in a creepy way. 70 pounds good price? Won't measure about the price. Depends on how exquisite you want the art. Usually charge by the hour. But he stopped to admire Zika again, his eyes flicking up and down as he appreciated it. His shoulders slumped as he rolled his head back. Oh, fire. I'll do the best I know how for 70 pounds. Bloody artist in my head just wants to put something beautiful on a pretty little canvas. Zika stared at the client chair, examining the tactical options. Do I have to take off blouse? Depends on how much ink you want on it and how much you like the blouse. Zika's lips twisted as the pragmatism kicked in. Fuck. I want this. I want it down the line. I have no bra on today. Did not think about this issue because I thought it would be woman doing the work. Screw it. Off with the shirt. We'll burst in embarrassment later. Eddie watched as she quickly undid the remaining shirt buttons, then grit his teeth and put his hand up. Wait. I I am torn between heaven and hell here. I'm not sure which is what. I can tell you can drape on yourself. Blood, Philip. I admit straight out I'm totally enjoying it, but I do not want you freaking out of the audience. Here, I'll step out here. Take your shirt off, get in the chair, make yourself modest with a towel, just leave the skin for the tattoo on cover. A few minutes later, you sit next to Sika. She lay in the chair with a towel draped over her. You have the popular term Reggie's tools. That is a right cute little nibble away, so I see you've got some nice tone in your muscles. Tattoos look better than that. Right then, lecture time for your first job. Your paints, brand new, sealed, brand needles, those are brand new, always ask to see that. Never let anyone use something you haven't watched them up on the wrap. Make sure the seals are real, the artist won't complain. Now I'm going to swab your skin down with disinfectant, sketch the design on it with this marker, and we'll really get started. You comfortable? How can you tell? No, I am not comfortable. I'm scared shitless. I've done this before. Good. Now another little sweet treat is in the light. Yes, getting ink can hurt for some people, but remain still and can be done faster. I want to do this right. You're far too pretty to have a crappy messed up tattoo on the lower chest skin. Okay, well, you will be still like pretty canvas for you. Holy shit, I guess I'm ready. I'll talk to you while I work. That happens. Do you want music? Ready began penciling a spider outline on the chest. Sika twitched at the sensations. Yep, everything is fine. That tickles a little. Let's proceed. Soon the whir and click of the inking began. Sika felt her eyes leaking tears almost immediately. Oh, god damn, how did my mouse do an entire fucking snake on her body? Every click was like fire. Eddie stopped to wipe the tear tracks off her face. Yeah, you understand now, darling. Your friend must be quite a fierce lady to do an entire snake from navel to heart like you described. I'd love to see it sometime. So I think I'm going to be quite proud of this. Such a beautiful little creature. The spider would be pretty too. Sika ignored the joke and watched the project unfold in the mirror Eddie could go reach for her. The spider began to peer under his artistry, her personal skin around the ink reddening in protest. She burned out pain by piercing and brushing. Occasionally, Eddie adjusted her modesty towel to keep it out of his way as he worked. The young woman remained wary. The man seemed more in tune with his art than her body. Her radar continued to report his lecherous, but no sense of violent danger. I don't know diddles about the school over there, just that it's a boarding school. Studying anything in particular? Here, let me wipe his tears. He picked up his tool again. Those are amazing sound spouting. I'm not sure I want to know what you're babbling, kid. It sounds like lethal hexes and spells from the dark language of Mordor. I'm Russian. Very naughty words. I like to study languages. Chinese fascinates me. Begin playing bass. Guitar a few years, so music. Fuck. Bass guitar is probably enough. You live on campus, right? True. Parents died before middle school, so I'm ward of the state lawyers. Total jackass over. Oh, mother. I cannot believe Glick did not mention it hurting, just the itchy later. Your friend Glick must be a real trooper. Stay still. This is a tricky bit. I'm going to get this leg tip perfect. The modesty towel slipped down and fell on her lap. Sika's eyebrows shot because her muscles went taut. Eddie froze as well, gaping at shapely little breast with pretty nipples. He reached for the towel, but the hand had another hand and lifted up a stroke of treasure. Spears of thought collided in the young woman's head. Kill. I will kill him now. No, but I want this tattoo so much. It's good work. Touched up fucking. Am I a pervert? Her leg shivered as she moaned with the stroke, and then she growled, grabbing his wrist and hand on it. Sika's other hand now held a dagger flashing in the spotlight, and her next words were one time. You are not dead, because I want this tattoo, and you clearly have skills. Eddie spotted the small, sharp thing and began sweating. Sika let go of his wrist without having crazy movement eyes. It's also true I'm not getting any sense you were evil. You were simply weak and perverted. Not sure how to process this. Eddie sat up and raised his hands. Aye, lassie, you are a desire for truth, but I really do not want to go to jail, and neither do you, I hope. Honest words. Truth. Okay. New deal, Eddie. We understand each other now, I think. I am practical. The price is £50. We'll allow some touching as long as you pretend it's professional and necessary for better art. Then I shall have marvelous tattoo. That's my mission. Wow, you're going to be formidable as an adult if you're like this now. I forgot to ask, may I take a photograph when you're done? Just, I mean, if it makes you nervous, just your lips down. Not asking for porn, just for my portfolio. Her eyes do not. I do not believe you. However, if I get your approval picture, I'm not allowed facing boobs. No crappy shit, I know how cameras work. Someone taking naughty pictures of me, it should cost so much more. Very informative. Deal? Yes, very deal. Shake hands. She extended her other hand. Her eyebrows still arched to show. She lies back in the towel. Back in the chair. Eddie recovered the towel and made his way over when she stopped him. She took the towel off. It's fine. Hard deal, yes? The towel was obviously distracting you from artwork. Just be honest and respectful. I will allow you to look and touch as needed to do your work. It gets me your beautiful spider. Honestly, I'm totally baffled someone finds my small boobs and body attractive. Eddie took a deep breath, set his machine and loaded the video. Little candy, some blokes really like petite women. I'm one, you're a total fat smacker. A gothy with Snow White. And I enslave some lucky bastard someday. Like it? Eddie showed Sika the screen on his digital camera. The image displayed the capture of her unclothed appearance from her navel past her breast and the new tattoo at the top of the ponytail on her head. This is a great camera. First time seeing a computer camera. It's a Canon EOS 1D. Fairly new to the market. Wonderful for business. I meant the image. Makes me feel like beautiful modeling should be paying me for my work. My ego is on fire now. You may keep entire footage. Maybe it will freak out some administrator in for secret tattoo. He handed Sika her blouse and she handed him the cash. She donned the shirt and buttoned it. She spelled, "Thank you for tattoo. I believe you are all square now with money. I'll be going." Eddie peered out the window with an aggravated look and checked his watch. Right, bloody hell, can't have this. I'm walking you back to campus, Eddie. It's really not a good idea for you to be out this late at night, even if you are a little ninja girl. I want you to be around to show my work off for a long time. I'm not objecting to escorting. It's appreciated. See, you're not evil, man. Just prefer to be creepy. Sika snickered quietly with smiles apparently shy. My doll let the man do what? What if you had not come back? We couldn't. Glycerin sat on her bed, wringing her hands and sniffling. Sika sat next to her, hugging and shushing. Look out, I'm doing a tattoo. For you, I was in control. That was just creepy. Thought you would be happy in front of me. What do you think of it? She took several deep breaths, wiped her lips, and said that she would be brave and tattoo for her. It's perfect for my treasure. She's nimble like a spider and get into it. The small goth was ecstatic. She took her friend's hand. Okay, you and me, the two of us. We get in trouble together. Always? Yes? Am I right? Glycerin nodded. She bent over and kissed Sika's ear and whispered, "Friends forever?" A little less alarmed. Yes, even longer.
One more time, Brad Branham. Okay, since the intermissions were a little bit scattered around, we're just going to keep powering right through it. We have 2 hour virgins coming up back to back who are no strangers to the Portland poetry stage in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Melissa Howells has been a featured guest on Patrick Ricard's radio show on KBOO, The Talking Earth. She graduated from the University of Minnesota School of Journalism, recently taught art for a living to the developmentally delayed, and also has done a bunch of recent art shows where her watercolor pen art is sought after and highly prized, many of which were featured at First Thursday downtown, I read. Please welcome her to the hour that stretches stage for the first time, Melissa Howells.
She has ability.
Yeah, so
What do we need here?
I just need to, yeah, that's cool. Thank you. All right, I think that I'm just going to get started right away. This first one is called Maps on the Maps, and we had a friend who used to go to 3 Friends all the time, and we didn't know that he was ill. And on the last time that I saw him, he was like, he looked kind of low, and I said, well, Max, what's up? What's going on? He goes, I don't think people will remember me. And I had no idea that he was that ill. So this poem is for Max. Me and my lover riding the Max. It's near midnight. A sun-kissed orange lunar eclipse is peering in through open windows. A prescient wind is rifling through our hair. Across the way, the east bounder passes slowly, creaking. A man glides through our open window. It's Max. Oh my God! Max on the Max. Long dead Max, our friend, the poet, the playwright, the lover of America's national pastime. Hello, he greets us. It's me, Max, on the Max. We gape open-mouthed, almost not believing our eyes. Not so polite to look so surprised, he says. Ask the question, he says. Well, is there baseball in heaven, dear Maximilian? Yes, there is, he says. And I watch my son playing ball every chance I can get. We pause, caught in the tangle of the wind, caught in the tangle of his words, caught in the tangle of our memory of so much baseball. The baseball of our youth, the pennant races of our former town, and Max's final season, and now the endless one up in heaven with all the boys of summer. Thanks. This one's called This Is It. Here the train tracks are littered like an ancient seabed with garbage. Orange needle caps and someone's lost left shoe, which looks as if there's still some wear in it yet. Further on I spy a piece of dirty blue tarp, how it flaps in the wind waving, no longer keeping out someone's rain. Beyond an endless ribbon of traffic, it disappears into the many horizons. The people inside will never notice when they exist. Above, perched like a white cake on a plate, the three-layered house sits. Its windowed eyes now shutterless and glaring northwards, sightless into a bracing wind. Once a house, built and lived in by local families, now foreclosed and flipped to moneyed foreigners from out of country. Medical professionals who can afford the new Portland. This house now maintained like a fortress, the newly fruiting pear tree chopped down suddenly without warning, the pink petunias icing a baker's dozen of perfectly matched gray coffin planters. Above me, there's a gray immaculate sky signifying change, but only a change in the weather. Yet little changes here. It's a monotony of sameness, same rain, same desperation. Last winter, the paramedics dredged up 4 people wrapped like blackened cigars to the elevator, to a waiting ambulance which drove away slowly with its red light turned off. The mausoleum where I live looms right, its inhabitants looking on. We barely notice how there are only meager improvements in the midst. They're mostly for the crows who bank on decay, crows now more suited for this sort of life. I marvel how adaptive they are, but how I was hoping for better. I'm sitting here on my balcony thinking, perhaps I should grow feathers, look up to the sky, then spread my blackened wings and fly away. This one's called Ramada. She was named Ramada after the inn where her parents had slept. during the waning days of their Las Vegas honeymoon. It was a moniker more suited for a horse and only served to remind her of the end. Yet it afforded her the vantage point of being different and much more. Deliberately, she wore mismatched clothes and off-putting combinations of color and pattern. She relished the notion that she could readily be mistaken for a forgotten child, perhaps something even as rich and rare as an orphan. Orphans had no obligations to anyone other than to themselves. Her early gained independence from the age of 8 had been a very worthwhile pursuit. More than anything, Ramada preferred her own company. Yet even more so, she desired the simple pleasures of a drawing tablet, a good book, her own imagination. Her teachers may have called her bright, but Ramada knew better. Bright was an adjective reserved solely for light bulbs, not for people like her instructors, who at times could also be like light bulbs, quite dim. Thank you. This one is called All Being Considered. I hear his bark, a desperate yelp for an owner that never seems to come. Rain drenches the pavement. Pouring rain doesn't drench the sound of his barking. Pouring rain makes his barking more desperate. Man, oh man, where are you? Dog nose cannot sense man. Dog eyes cannot read, cannot tell the time. Dog who lives in this moment and the next, can he reason himself out of his panic? Dog, though he be a smart boy, a tame boy, is very human indeed. Craves familiar intonations, needs the reassurance of a hand, needs to bury his nose, his heart in the smell of safety. Dog, you are human to me, a human with 4 legs and a tail. I'm sending you a message. Relax, dog. Be safe, boy. Be loved, boy. I am here with you in my mind, waiting while you wait anxiously in the rain. I hear the Russians sent dogs into space in the beginning. Human lives were not expendable. I imagine dog in spaceship looking down at the earth, head tilted. What is Earth? No understanding of why he is alone, hungry, hurtling through space. I know this dog was thinking, this is not a ride home in the car. For every dog has his thoughts. But now, dog, I no longer hear you barking. I trust you are finally home. Drive. With your tail held high, you wave in sincere greeting. If you were mine, I would hold you close, through my nose in your rain dog wetness, whisper in your long ears, I am glad you are my dog, and you would know how much I mean it. I think I'm just going to read one more.
We like it.
You guys have been really... Here it is. I long for stars. I long for stars. Hearing the whistle of far-off trains, brisk night breezes, the opening of doors to familiar faces, uncomplicated circumstances, and nights of endless, uninterrupted sleep. and then waking up feeling sated with dreams that I can remember to live. I long for stars and the thought of not worrying about what remains, how I could take that whistling train to somewhere and not be afraid anymore. The comforting change in seasons, the anticipation of what more might happen, the adventure in near and distant places, the uncomplicated circumstances of spending nights dancing again and talking with my dearest ones and friends. Living like I'm dreaming, still so much time ahead, an equal number of years behind and in front of me. Oh, there's still more time to dream in. The present is a gift yet open to me. I long for stars. How they deliver me directly to hope. They help me focus and feel so not alone. Keep it all shrunk down to my own manageable humanity. But now I'm growing older, and the stars I long for are dimmer. They're farther away and much harder for me to see. How they seem more bare to eternity and to those faces who once were familiar, who've now become much dimmer. They're distant constellations, far away and gone from me. But how I've longed for stars. How I hope to reach them. How I wanted to be one of them. How I long for stars. Thank you.
We're almost done here, you guys. Thank you all for sticking around. The next week is going to be on July the 29th. It's last Sundays, as always, as it has always been. Please check out the website, the.hourthatstretches.com or .org, or just facebook.com/hourthatstretches. The July bill will feature spoken word phenomenon Brianna Barrett, who was brought to us again by audience recruitment. Alexandria Levin, an accomplished poet and gallery artist, who was also brought to us by audience recruitment. Robert Torres, who has been with the Hour for quite a long time, a younger poet who was just in the 10-minute play festival up at the Clinton Street Theater. Ivan Zorik, a good friend of mine who writes speculative fiction and is involved in the Bizarro movement. Nathan Tompkins, the poet from the Tonys, reads once every month there down at Tonys. Nathan is very well known at that read. And another performance art phenomenon who has volunteered for the Hour That Stretches production team. We are very lucky to have her, Erin Gurley. So it's going to be a real good show. You guys should check it out. This last bit, we were supposed to have another performer who's been involved with the Hour, Ryan Davis, but he couldn't make, you guys probably know him better on Facebook as Wolf Gangling, that's like his poet name, but he couldn't make it tonight, so I'm going to fill in, just to round out the read, send you guys home with an absolutely bad taste in your mouth. I used to say when I was a bouncer full-time, if you don't leave with a bad taste in your mouth, we haven't done our job. In all seriousness, this is a new horror story that I just finished, and I'm very proud of it. There's a great horror author named Ramsey Campbell over in England who helped me out with this a lot, one of the younger living members of the Lovecraft Circle. And I can't say enough about this kind of thing. I'm so glad that this is going on YouTube and everything else. I just got out of a 2.5-year-long, very abusive relationship, and I will not shut up about it. People should not ever shut up about abuse. #MeToo, thank you. Me and the ex started this story together. The idea inherent in this story, what the cult was wanting to do, was something that she actually wanted to go out and do. I suggested channeling it into a horror story. And it ended up becoming something better than what we had tried to make it, what she had tried to make it, whatever. It just ended up being a really good thing born out of sorrow and misery. It's a mashup of Ramsey Campbell's short story, It Helps If You Sing, and Thomas Ligotti, the other great horror writer involved with this mashup. He did a book called The Conspiracy Against the Human Race. It's very similar scenarios to what you're about to hear, just slightly different framework. But enough build-up, I'm going to just read it to you. This is called Give Me the Roses While I Live. Part 1, Tuning Up. The afternoon sunlight stretched long through the coffee house where the strange, earnest young couple sat facing each other, leaning forward, wreathed in smoke from twin foamy cappuccinos. Sam Cooke's You Send Me was playing on the house speakers, soft and delirious and slow. Are you still with it? William asked. Are you burning out yet, dear Charlotte? You're getting that look again. No look touched William's eyes, which looked like dead man's eyes, though his face did well at faking an expression. He wore his black hair slicked back, almost to the collar of his faded woodsy green overcoat. Tall and ungainly, he looked like he wore cast-offs of variously incorrect sizes, like a preacher or a traveling salesman. William, the woman's pale blue-gray eyes kept rolling like the eyes of an animal scenting fire. Sharp sounds did it. He smiled indulgently. Look, it was really nothing, just slept funny. He didn't call her on it. Charlotte was beautiful and handsome at the same time, but hid her beauty with too much makeup and too little sleep. Those big luminous eyes didn't go well with her immaculate, almost butchy pompadour, the black polyester pantsuit, the ugly bag too big to be a purse. She grew pensive for a moment. It's not worth concentrating on. Nothing is. Isn't that what our leader really meant? Charlotte was getting anti-mystical again, also came with each assignment. Everything we perceive, a feeling or a noun, it's all just chemicals and brain meats. There is no meaning but that which we ourselves impose, William muttered surprisingly. Charlotte's right eyebrow went up. Immanuel Kant? Heidegger maybe? Am I warm? Lukewarm? Throw me a bone. William chuckled. Comic book. Alan Moore. Watchmen. Remember the movie? Oh yes, Charlotte's nose wrinkled. Charming. Optimistic. How are you holding up? William chuckled again. Oh, I'm just lovely. If I wasn't, I'd look like this. His expression didn't change. Charlotte giggled. William's eyes twinkled a little. Sorry, too much. But pure pragmatism, really. I can be there for you when we're doing the work. Humor's okay then. Charlotte's look just said relax, but it was wistful and indulgent. There was that one time. William waggled his index finger. We gotta practice what we preach. If only, Charlotte snorted, backed up her chair and hefted that strange old warhorse of a bag. I got the tip, she told him, walking toward the jar. Just like that time, I shouldn't. We're here for untethering the proper pilgrims, the ones ready to hear what every idiot should know all along. No bad day is worse than their life in this illusion. William looked around. So now we minister to the publicans and sinners in the fucking Starbucks? Miffed, Charlotte pointed at the window. It's Pete's this week, I picked. Get your nose off your shoe tops, emo boy, and get in the game. William feigned weariness and intoned, the blank file, Hoffman, CV, room 209, St. Christopher Hotel. Is that clerk still, what's her name? Charlotte shook her head. No, not Lucia. Lucia's boss, Romanian woman named Lumi. She's sympathetic to our cause, a cutter, always wears long sleeves. Just show your ID badge. William almost beamed. What would I ever do without you? Cartwheels. Let's go. He should be waking up. He's low. Been a while since his last fun night. William stumbled to catch up with her at the door. Charlotte turned, offered her arm, and then touched his wrist like she was taking his pulse, sweaty and two-fingered. Very sweaty. The snap of contact was instantaneous, and the pheromones spoke. William's eyes glowed. Really? He blurted. Shh, Charlotte admonished. No talking with our mouths when we get in there. This is big. You know that. I got butterflies, don't you? I've been flying that goddamn desk too long. They were like that the whole way to the bus. Part 2, first movement, Allegro con brio. The apartment smelled like a microwave used to cook raw meat for 20 years. The mostly naked wall above Sainted Mother's bed held a framed picture of Jesus that looked like a bearded, slightly coked-out Charlton Heston, much like St. Cloyd's Sainted Mother, God rest her soul, before he cut the tongue out of her throat. Mama was bound now, part of the decor. And there was ever so much decor, split-second scraps bound through with other scraps that no cop would ever think to look for, let alone find. Floyd was too busy. He needed more breaks. Got too pooped to pot too fast. Bones getting old. The work was getting harder, and the pain was almost too much to bear some days. Doctors made you wait, and then made you talk to him. That was usually the point where they got head up, when Floyd talked. When his own GP at County Public Health told him he had a mass in his lung, Floyd never went back. The Lord was healing him now. He took baths in the blood and consumed whatever part was bothering him every time he made another convert. Once it had to be a man, but God understood that time. He never did no buggery, merely sliced off the fresh, unblemished organ and ate it. Problem solved. All the prostitutes he selected, even that rent boy, were damaged, but young. You are what you eat. He never felt better, just sad, bored. Mama said boredom was a sin against God. Floyd fancied himself a religious man, came from upbringing. He especially understood the faith-based revelation, too. His reliquary was as pretty as a cathedral in the back room for now. Maybe he could gather it all up and go someday when he wasn't too sad in the mornings. Floyd was thinking too much about Blood Daddy and Mama, the screaming fights they used to have, the utter awful hell at the dinner table, the beatings she took from him and Floyd took from both of them, round and round, back when those things were all he knew. Floyd couldn't get away from that stuff anywhere, like those boys in school and what they made him do in that bathroom stall, but it was better than the kickings that didn't stop in gym class, where there was no mama to say, "Dear Lord, Gene, don't hit him in the face unless he deserves it." Some days were so bad, Floyd would willingly get down on his knees and do for those boys what Papa told him to do anyway at home, to pray in that awful kind of way that was just between daddies and sons, if it meant not being in school. One time that actually worked. The bigger boy, Dave Billick, told Floyd to never tell nobody, and he never did. He just forgot. It was just life to him. Floyd still dreamed about all that some nights, like last night. The room around Floyd was a shadow box full of potential evidence, a lock of hair bound with a violet bow sitting atop a pile of bills stamped "Final Notice, one full presidency ago," a mummified nose, a whole sheaf of receipts, a nasty box cutter covered in something, but the most jarring thing to anyone else would have been the smell. Depression has a smell, like not showering because why? Not cleaning the schmutz out of the couch because who was there to get after him about it? Not even washing his face because why? Under that, though, the smell was worse, like an old barn where hogs were butchered at the height of a summer so high the horseflies grew to 4 inches long. The smell of the apartment was a moldy, churchy smell, out of the sleepy low trough of the past few days since his last conversion. No real reason to not go out, though. The roads were just too gross. Sleep for the next 2 days, conducive to the couch and the dreams within those dreams, and public broadcasting on TV, and waiting for the next thing. The garbage trucks had been going all day across the street at the new apartments. Everything in Portland was changing, harder to be what he was, to do what he did. Floyd Vernon Hoffman's name was on no warrant that he knew of, so as he lay on that couch full of tossings and turnings to and fro, the knock on the door startled him quite badly. This wasn't in the plan. Floyd got those knocks sometimes. Most of the time they meant, "Sorry to disturb you, sir. Call us if you hear anything." Sometimes not. And once in a great while, the cute little FBI agent or backstick deputy made straight in the desert of their intellects the highway to the master. Floyd was the master's instrument. He did not discriminate amongst his fold that sought to stand before his throne of their own free will, guns drawn and deplorable words upon their lips. That kind always had to be called in for a little come-to-Jesus meeting. Those meetings never lasted long. Jesus forgave all when they were remanded unto his service. A lot of it went on at the condo, but Floyd saved the fun for the other house. The condo was his in perpetuity, thanks to Blood Daddy. Blood Daddy willed it to the wife and kid, end quote, just before Mama cut him up and made him into roast beef. "Sinner," she said, "child molester, worst kind, to come like a thief in the night with the stink of Sodom thick on his breath and in his sweat and done to what he did to my poor angel. You should have wiped that smile off your face, you little bastard. Your mama's talking." Floyd just stood there and took her, because Mama walked in on what Blood Daddy was doing to Floyd, and she brained Blood Daddy with a flower pot, and they ate him for a week. Floyd never uttered a peep during the butchery. It was fun. He let Mama teach him how to bleach bone and tan skin and bolt and hang and mount, like at the museum. There were 2 other daddies about that, after that, but neither of them laid a hand on poor Floyd. They just went away, but Floyd never went hungry. He still kept up Blood Daddy's cabin out in the gorge. The condo was just for culling the prey from the herd, culling the truly hellbound, but no cops. Cops weren't like his Mary Magdalenes he picked up out on 82nd and often left near there, and in St. John's in that ravine, and the one spot out by the airport. His calling lay among the whores and publicans and sinners, not the centurions. Cops were messy. Cops shot back and sometimes spit and bucked and just took such a long time to choke out that even Big Floyd got winded when he was in his prime. But those 2 outside just now were not FBI. The rain was too much for him. The rain made his joints swell and sent the serotonin ice cream truck far, far away from his block until it felt like it'd never be spring again and he'd never hear it again. The rain made everything hurt, and now it made him sloppy, so he stayed in. One moment. Oh, that ain't sorry. Made him stay in. So he stayed in. He was getting cabin fever, though, badly. Floyd craved some fried pancreas dredged in flour and eggs and black pepper, and adventure. Floyd lumbered off the couch, brushing greasy gray hair out of his eyes, and made his way to the rough Judas hole in his front door. The first look told much. Tall, skinny drink of water, maybe sells vacuum cleaners. Tasty bitch, though. Hell, Dykes scream just as loud. Those eyes of hers stand out. Easy prey to both of them. JWs, Mormons, a recharge. What do the kids call it in those video games of Power Up? They can listen just as good as anybody. They can be remanded. Let them in. Why, that one little mousy JW girl with the granny glasses almost got me to cry. She got me talking about Mama. That one opened up just fine herself. Kept her around, too, in several spots that made me think of love. For a while, but all things end. It had been a while since company came to him. Company was nice. They could find things to talk about. Floyd knew his Bible. A little discussion would help him unwind, then prep for a chance to cook. Who are you? Floyd bellowed through his big nose. His big nose. What are you doing here? The door creaked open and stuck on its chain. Floyd expected the shocked look. He got that a lot. He liked it. But no such look appeared on either new face. Neither were surprised in the slightest. They could have been ordering lunch. Both of them had no look in their eyes at all. And they weren't married, no rings, and they kept giving each other too many lustful looks to be married. Good. One less sin to purge. Would you mind if we came in for a moment? The woman asked. My name's Charlotte. This is William. We are vectors. Vectors in the work. Floyd smiled, unhooked the chain, and motioned them inside. Neither of them made a face at the smell or any of the artifacts, not so much as a raised eyebrow. He could see them looking, though, remembering. Part of him wondered why. What's a vector? He asked, too loudly. The man pretended not to hear. Floyd took Charlotte's hand when she offered it and pretended not to see when she wiped it on her shirt a moment later. Floyd, he said, turning to shake the man's hand in turn. We won't keep you long, William began. The work which we are about. Floyd stopped him. What work? I was raised Pentecostal, but I've known a few. We are vectors of fate, the woman said to him frankly, right to his face, in that hoarse voice and accent that were almost genderless. The ultimate self-actualized fate. Have you thought about fate? Each one of us are either part of the beaten herd walking down the chute to a flesh hell, or we've lost the biggest bet and this world is hell right now. Charlotte sat down on Mama's sofa, the man beside her but a foot away. She smelled like blown-out deodorant and unbrushed teeth and lost sleep. William smelled like something else. After a moment, Floyd realized he could smell it from her, too, then immediately forgot about it. Sat down in his lazy boy and reached for the nearest unopened beer. Beer? He asked the air. Yes, thanks, the man said. Floyd, shocked, ran him out a Ham's tall boy from the fridge. The man popped it open and chugged it almost all at once. As he opened his own, Floyd was processing that. The woman mistook his look for rapt attention. You know, she began, nature doesn't need human beings to survive. If we went extinct tomorrow, no other organism would suffer. Something about the shine in her eyes took Floyd aback, like he could tell her anything and she wouldn't be shocked. I have strayed from the faith, he began, but it hasn't all strayed from me. No, William interjected, leaning forward. Fate, not faith. That got to Floyd. He began listening a little more intently. The man cocked his head. Fate without works is dead, he replied. Therefore I adjure you to give up your works. Bear not false witness. William's eyes were dead, but somehow kind. We've seen 200 of you last week. You're hurting. I know pain when I see it. He sucked down the dregs of his beer, stood and offered Floyd the can. The gesture was strange, but their hands touched. Their hands touched, and everything made sense, enough for Floyd to sit back down. But it was all okay, since their hands touched. Like he saw the world the way William did, and that made the world okay. More beer, he thought. Nothing is holding me to this world. I am prepared to meet my God. I am converting myself. Dear God, it is time. Dear God. Floyd bit his tongue until he tasted blood. Why me? Charlotte was prepared. As vectors in our church, we have a hunger for understanding truly special people like you. Why, that back room, Floyd turned whitish green at this remark, is a work of art. Does society understand that? Do they get the message? It was barely a question. Charlotte saw his head shaking back and forth, then stood, crossed the room and gave him a rough hug. I can feel your trust, she said, as her exposed arm brushed his neck. The ones who do as they are told put total blind trust in what they can feel right now. What do you feel right now, Floyd? Floyd opened his mouth and just noises came out. Charlotte sat back down. Oh, my poor pilgrim, so much fleshly illusion world pain you choke on. We can help you, but you have to let us. Can you? Floyd closed his eyes. Breathe, Charlotte suggested. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The moment is all we have, and even that is an illusion. Good. Again. Breathe. 7 or 8 breaths later, Floyd's shoulders settled. You see a lot, he said to the floor. Charlotte and William looked at each other, deciding something. Floyd could almost hear them talking, taste them, smell them talking, like ants who talked antenna to antenna with touch. So is he a carrier or a kill-off? Do we wire him up for the work or just let him off himself now? Shush, he's still converting. Just wait, just wait. But both of us could achieve transcendence for this, or get fired. It's dicey, but the dogma's pretty clear. Floyd removes their choice. They have to choose to die. That part's inflexible. He's taking their rights. That's how the elders see it, don't you see? Of course, but we have to go by the book. Start with suggestion. Yes, dear. Fuck your dear. Fraternizing? Hey, you liked it that last time. Shut up, you! Floyd clutched his head, trying to tune out the extra radio traffic. You got told to be an optimist growing up, Charlotte suggested out loud. Floyd seesawed his hand. A little. He didn't even know the word. Sure, everyone did. Charlotte reached for the unopened tall boy on the coffee table herself. Floyd looked dimly surprised but said nothing. It's one of our hardwired defaults. We go through trauma and don't really re-examine it, or the stupid platitudes we tell ourselves to get through it. Those amazing eyes narrowed as she took a long pull of beer, tilting it back at the elbow like a man would do. The worst parts are in fact the reality of this fleshly plane. Floyd frowned. So the good parts aren't true? William scowled. This life is not worth having or living. Every day, something else becomes a disappointment. He spread his big storky hands. That's why we're here. For you. Charlotte smiled, adjusting her position on that plastic-coated couch that was draped even under the plastic with a sheet just as stained as the upholstery it hid. The work is larger than any label, she rejoined. William nodded. Okay, that I'm starting to get. Outside, the crows were going nuts on the nearest telephone wire. It was making Floyd jumpy. Maybe they'd go away. Maybe he could have some peace long enough to concentrate on all the things these strange people had just told him. The work which many of us never stop thinking about, especially at this time of year, when it's darkest in our city. Charlotte gave William a look. You're losing him, she thought. Floyd hid the chuckle. So just wait a tick. Sheesh, the sigh was unfeigned. Let me catch up a little bit there, Jim and Tammy. I may be coming along. He decided to drop the big stupid lug act, as before they just sat there and took it. What church do you represent exactly? Where did it begin as a ministry? Floyd was starting to have fun with them, maybe. It took all kinds in God's world. If these two were false prophets, he could really have some fun. Maybe it was the wrong day to be sad. Maybe he could get his wind up a little. Something was stirring anyway. He looked back at Charlotte's strong thighs. Our Lady of Perpetual Extinction, Charlotte whispered breathily, stars he couldn't understand suddenly glowing in her big silver eyes. Floyd glanced at William, who merely gave out with another enigmatic shrug. We don't precisely carry one, he countered. We're well vectors, like my partner here just said, facilitators. Floyd thought about that, but pressed him further. So no formal affiliation? Non-denominational? Their grins grew big. Oh no, Charlotte giggled, never said that, just not in the same solar system as the religions you're thinking of. We don't hold with a lot of that. Some of what the Catholics do, yes, some of the Pentecostals, the old-time Essenes, the Cathars, here and there. But we are of a different race of prophets, Mr. Hoffman. Her beaming face glowed. The living room was as still as the grave. The prophets who shall come in the last times, when Babylon shall fall. None of what we preach is precisely contradicted by Scripture. Well, we could argue. I hope you have time if you mean to. Quite a bit of time. We have all day, don't we, partner? William beamed, merely nodding and waiting. For the moment, the crows outside were silent. Unreality washed over Floyd, buckling into the armchair, pinning him to it like a small planet. All he could taste was that taste in the backs of his sinuses, the taste, both of them, their weird undersmell that was itself full of thoughts. That smell kept making him forget to reach for the meat cleaver or go ready to block and tackle in the back room. All too much. Why bother? Better to just sit. He was coming undone. He must have been. Apart from the work, he hadn't been around company in a long time. Cloyd hated people, he realized. Didn't care if he ever saw his landlord for rent time or the clerk at the corner store where he got his smokes. None of them ever again. It was that taste. That taste. The tasty bitch was still talking. The meaning of ultimate sacrifice is, for us, a dark, personal thing. By liberating yourself from this world of illusions, you become one with the all, and you give your love back to God. Cloyd heard himself counter, then why don't either of you do it? What are you, chicken? Incongruously, Charlotte twinkled and beamed from ear to ear. Because we are charged to go searching the world for people like you. See, we're trying to synchronize the ratio of people who should not be on this earth with people who actually feel that way. Cloyd picked up the tall boy again, frowning at it, and drained it. There was another one, 3 in the fridge, and 2 still warm on the table. Even a hangover would help him along this new course. When we seek to kill ourselves, William countered softly, we often choose that path because we can't take the whole world along. That option is closed to us, so our benevolent elders sought to reverse the equation, subtly. Suicide euphoria, Cloyd countered. I heard about this from a shrink on TV once, on Montel. I know exactly what you're talking about. William looked visibly surprised. Would you say some more about that? Sure, that's what keeps you going, just knowing there's a plan. Charlotte was smoking a cigarette. Cloyd slid the ashtray across the coffee table toward her. She nodded her thanks. Out east, she picked up, in the Buddhist faiths, they talk about old souls, bodhisattvas who choose to come back to this world so they can teach others the path to enlightenment. Gook horse shit, Cloyd spat. I thought we were talking about the Bible. Beside William, Charlotte was only smiling more brightly. Yes, just as you say. As vectors, we are not here to put anyone on such a path. That being said, it is repeated through all the Old Testament that the material world is one of illusion, you see, of ills you shun, and can be escaped when we truly connect to God, if you like. The 12-steppers say God is generic, religion is the brand name. She paused. It is hard to stay in this world, she told him obliquely. Hard to keep at the work. Every soul we save makes it a little easier. You asked what our ministry is about. At the end of a mile-long rope, Cloyd felt his head nod. Charlotte kept going and glowing. We believe that reproduction is the only true mortal sin, and the degree to which we achieve personal extinguishment is the degree to which we are enlightened. When the fragments of creation, separated in the Tzimtzum, the final contraction by which Yahweh and Sophia birthed this universe, that separation sowed discord. We try to heal that division by reproduction, but it is a misguided impulse. Every new life brings us further from God. Make sense? Cloyd wiped the drool away from the corner of his mouth. Where was his beer? Oh well, he could open another one. He could try. It took a few tries. So what's it all about, Alfie? William gave him a commiserating look. Death is to be embraced, not feared. Death means an end to the suffering in this world, which is the only true illusion. We are the only source of evil in this blind place. Why not get rid of it all? Your leaders, did they off themselves? It was the beer talking. Cloyd wanted more. He squinted at William, who was shaking his head no. It wasn't so cut and dried at first after our leader passed on to the great reward. The oldest boy was a vector. He spread the work from Chicago to London, Paris, Ibiza, Istanbul, dazzling. Cloyd sputtered. You know, you two's thoughts aren't as quiet as you think your thoughts are. You call me names for the work I do myself, the people I convert myself. You self-righteous assholes, you... Eyes flashing like a cat's, Charlotte shot her cuffs. You convert people to pig feed, to tchotchkes. Your victims don't give consent. How many of those girls invited you to cut them up and eat them? How do you... Both of them looked at him, rubbing their index fingers and thumbs together. You touched us. They let that sink in. Charlotte murmured into the gap. Our sect practices the laying on of hands, as it was done in the biblical times. But for that ability was lost among our most blessed children due to science. Cloyd thought about that some more and managed to get the tall boy to his mouth. She continued. Our technique is passed down vector to vector in the mother's milk, in the way we learn, the way we teach. We talk with our skin, as our leader and our leader's scion were born to do. Charlotte looked him in the eyes again. We were first brought together in Chicago, the neighbors and bloodline of Celine Grant. Celine brought them all together, unified all the shards that were broken, as it says in the Jewish Zohar. Every religion leads up to ours in little ways. Charlotte grinned through her wetted overbite. Both of them bowed their heads. Bemused, Cloyd did likewise. This didn't go unnoticed. Celine was a martyr to the broken system we live in, this sick society, Mr. Hoffman. Cloyd tuned her out for a moment, watching the two of them, realizing something. They hung on for each other and nothing else. In or out of work, that was their loophole. He'd found their loophole. Inside, in the small fight-or-flight part that kept him listening and not wanting to pick up a knife or think about his own work except as it applied to him, inside he wondered how he could play that loophole, make it larger, unman them both. Except they'd been doing this a long time, and everything in him just wanted to give up anyway. Par for the course, wherever it led. Fuck it. Floyd leaned forward, whiskery chin on his fist. More beer, he mumbled. William shook his head. Bit early, thanks. Enjoyed the tall boy, though. Your funeral. When Floyd said that, both of them sighed. Okay, anyway, what did your martyr do to spread the good news? What were her alms? Floyd got a funny look at the phrase good news. She was a psychologist, William explained. She was fired from a crisis line. Floyd frowned. He tried to remember the numbers and gave up. It was getting hard to remember anything. Like the suicide hotline? Charlotte nodded, shifting on the couch. Yes, Mr. Hoffman. They handled calls from hospitals and different medical facilities rather than just the cold ones. Anyway, according to our doctrine, Celine was having a terrible night, and for one single call, she said to this suicidal caller, yes, it is hopeless. You know what? You really should. And they did. The air in the room changed. And they did. On the far side of Proxima Centauri, in a galaxy Cloyd couldn't pronounce, a pin dropped. He heard it. If William and Charlotte did, they gave no sign, merely waiting as patiently as the prophets of old. But these were not prophets of old. And that first conversion converted our leader. Celine began rounding up others, Charlotte gushed. The vectors, the first vectors. And that part was simple. Vectors are carriers. They are not allowed to actually transform until we have converted a certain number of the flock. William nodded, picking up the litany. We are scourged to suffer the prison of this fleshly illusion so we can free others from it. Then, when it's our turn, both of them smiled like a kid tasting peanut butter fudge for the first time. And God help him, Cloyd understood what he was feeling for the first time, since he got low this time, since the trough of his cycle after that last harlot was cleansed and dumped unshriven up by White Falls and the mining shacks up along the trail where the hikers don't go. Cloyd was afraid. But as he thought about that, he realized he was afraid because he felt in over his head. And when he pondered what might lie on the other side of that particular feeling, excitement trembled in his guts like the last time he'd ended up making one of his own conversions. And Cloyd could see them all. Now, what he did to them all, what that would look like to these two on the couch or anyone else but him. He tried to keep his voice steady. How do you know you're so right? How can you be so right? How can you be so right? Floyd Vernon Hoffman, Charlotte intoned in the voice of a witch hanger. You are an enemy of our church and a sinner in the eyes of the infinite. You rob them of the choice we bring. There is but one death that is yours. Now reap it. Something still him moved his mouth. I never told you my last name. Or the middle one. Both of them waited, hands folded as if there were more he had to figure out on his own. Fighting everything inside him, everything he could taste, Cloyd made it to the little desk by the front door, and the top drawer, and the 4 shells in the 22. Charlotte reached under the coffee table, removing a large photo album. Let's have a look at this, she suggested. I bet you're very proud. Probably has the first girl you ever fantasized about doing anything to, right on up to... No, Cloyd choked, turning around. First one didn't end like that. Her, he didn't know what he was saying. Page 2, her, Hyman. He sounded a bit gurgly. They both looked at him. The pistol barrel was in his mouth. I'm... Dull sounds, not like you think a hollow point would make. Cloyd took some time to fall, and the wall behind him was more decorated than it first appeared. William and Charlotte looked at each other with real facial expressions for the first time that night, and the expression on both faces was pure euphoria. I'm wearing my GoPro. Here she turned over her bag so William could see the tiny body cam, black and microphone shaped against the tacky green cloth. We got audio anyway. We're going to get rewarded for this. Maybe even early retirement, William whispered reverently. The look in his eyes bordered on wonder. The board beneath Floyd's right boot was sticking up the way loose boards didn't unless they were sanded and recut due to constant use. Fascinated, William knelt and pushed. The board had a tongue and groove which were snapped and broken. Beneath it, the shape of the other photo album was iconic. Small and blue, one picture at a time. One at a time. Floyd gurgled on the floor. William didn't even look at him. Oh, what have we here? He whispered breezily. The photo album you had out for company was just a ringer? Huh, imagine. Hey, Charlotte. Now he was positively beet red. When's happy hour start down at Jake's? Charlotte was already putting on her coat. 5, we were going to play darts again, because I was robbed and I want a rematch. Let me look at that album before you give it to HQ. William, as ever, rushed behind her and shut the door after him. Rematch. You cannot accept the superiority of my technique. The moment stretched as long as sunbeams. There was no meaning. Back in the apartment, the gurgling slowed and eventually stopped, and there was silence. Amen. Fuck yeah, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. We'll see you July 29th. Thanks for coming out. Have a good rest of your night.